Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Talking Tradesman. With me in the studio today, I have Cheryl Sharp from Pink Pig Financials. Cheryl has travelled all the way up from the Essex area. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheryl, massive thank you for coming up today. Let's talk.
Yeah. No, thank you for inviting me up.
Absolute pleasure. There's a couple of subjects we're going to talk about that I haven't actually touched on the podcast yet, so really appreciate that. But it's probably best to let you sort of introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do, really.
Yeah, no, of course. So, hi, I'm Cheryl. I am the founder and owner of an accountancy practice called Pink Pig Financials. I set that up 11 years ago, which is mad.
Can I just ask, before we go, Pink Pig Financial, where did that come from?
Well, I started off, as many accountants do, with a very traditional, boring name. But I always wanted something a bit more fun because I'm not a traditional accountant or boring or anything like that. And yeah, my husband and I, we were just like brainstorming over Christmas once. I was like, right, I really want to change the company name, want something fun, want something interesting, something memorable. And we just started spouting out names. Pink's my favourite colour. I already had the old NatWest piggy banks.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if it was the piggy banks.
I used to use those in my branding. Anyway, or images like that, shall I say. And yeah, so just Pink Pig Financials kind of just rolled off the tongue.
Fair enough. Yeah. So as good as I've get my words out. As good of as an explanation as any.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, the funny thing is, my brand designer at the time hated it.
Really?
Yeah, when I went to her, I said, this is what we're calling it. She's like, no. She said, that's awful. And I was like, no, it's not. It's really good. I was like, and I've already done it at Company's House anyway, so get on
Job
with it.
done, yeah. Like it. Strong and decisive.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you then because I needed to find out about that.
It's all good. But yeah, so I set that up 11 years ago. I'd not long left an abusive marriage and I was in a job. I was travelling backwards and forwards to London in school hours. And if anyone works around school hours, they know how much you have to fit into that 9 to 3. It's not easy. Yeah. And if you add in a commute to London of an hour each way, it's even less.
Yeah, it's barely worth going, isn't it?
It was barely. I literally was at my desk for 4 hours. But it worked and it was a job and it was some money, financially independent for myself. But then I moved out further from London and I was like, that's not going to work anymore. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to set up on my own because not many people back then, 11, 12 years ago, would let you work in school hours. It was a case of you either work like 3 days a week or full time. Part time around school hours or flexible working was just not a thing back then, or term time working, anything like that just wasn't possible. So I was like, I'll just take the leap and go on my own. And yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
My boys were they weren't even at school fully then, so they would have been 3 and 6. So yeah, the little one wasn't fully at school.
Quite intensive still in terms of needing your attention at that age as well, aren't they?
Definitely. So yeah, it was quite interesting and very much learned what I thought I knew about business. There was a whole lot more to it, as I'm sure many of us do when we set up our own businesses, because you do it to do the thing you like and then all of a sudden you realise that you've got these loads of other things that go with it.
Yeah.
And
I think that one hits hard with the trades a lot, Cheryl. There's a lot of us in the construction industry that do exactly that. You get really good or you master a skill, whether that's, in my case, painting, but whether that's carpentry, electrics, whatever, and you work for somebody else and you're like, I can do this job. Why do I need to work for them? I'm going to work for myself. And then all of a sudden you realise that you've got to be, your own marketing department, your own social media management, your own accountant, which again is something we'll get onto and talk about. So there's a couple of things that I want to cover in the conversation. One being the accountancy side of running a business, and obviously there's some big changes coming in terms of digital tax, so we can have a chat about that. But also the first thing that you mentioned was the fact that you'd come out of an abusive relationship.
yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what happened there in your situation and obviously how you got through it, I guess?
Yeah, of course. So this is going back quite a way now. So was it? I would have been early 20s when I got into the relationship. And it was just normal at the time. I didn't think nothing of it. I'd come from a family where my parents had broken up, so I'd seen them arguing. So the odd shouting at me or horrible name calling and things, I just thought that was normal because I didn't have any reference point of what a normal relationship was. And I say I have to be really careful around the language, because the language that I used to use was, it was his business, I worked for him, he set it up and I just did his accounts and admin and bits and pieces. But on paper and officially, it was our business, but he always made me think that it's not ours, it was his. And I guess that was the first, to outside people, that would have been the first signs. And now for me, that would have been the first signs of it, but it wasn't back then. It was just like, oh, okay, this is what happens. I don't know a lot about business, so I'll just let you get on with it type thing. And things just chipped away. And I don't think I realised at all what I was getting myself into. And I definitely didn't realise that I was in an abusive relationship, because whenever you hear the words domestic abuse, domestic violence, you just straight away go to somebody that's beaten up, black and blue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think recently there's been a lot more attention on control and coercive behaviour, but not very long ago, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago what I thought was an abusive relationship, I'd have gone straight to that, physical abuse.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, and that's what I went to. So I was like, well, it can't be. It must be normal, because he's not hurting me physically. And didn't really... so I just carried on. It's just like, okay, I'm kind of here now. Just get on with it. And then things did get worse and worse and worse. But again, there was no violence at that point, so I didn't really think much of it. And it wasn't until there was a couple of little incidents I was like, okay, I'm really not sure about this now. But by that point, I was pregnant. I was working for him, and I had no independence, so I had nowhere to go, no money of my own, nothing. So I was just like, well, I've just got to make the best of it. And I think coming from a family where my parents broken up, I was like, I'm never going to do that to my children.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I was the same, yeah.
So I thought, right, just got to carry on. Just got to get through it, and at some point it's going to get better. It's just the way things is. But I had hope that things would get better, but never did. And yeah, it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And I never shared it with anybody.
Let's take a quick break there to thank this episode's sponsors, Brewers Decorators Centres. Brewers have got over 200 stores nationwide. They're the premier destination for decorators, and they stock all of the best brands in the industry. Brewers give the best advice in store, and on top of that, you can get 10% off your first and second purchase, plus trade rates and free delivery when you sign up for a Brewers Pro Trade Card. A massive thanks again to Brewers for supporting the Talking Tradesman podcast and helping us raise mental health awareness throughout construction and beyond. Let's get back to the episode.
Talking to a few friends now, they said they could see a few things, but they knew that I wasn't in a place where I'd listen. So they said the best thing they could do for me was just to be there when I was ready.
Would you say, looking back now, would you say that was accurate?
Yeah.
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 It's hard, isn't it? I think most people, if you think, listen, anyone with a friend circle has probably got a friend where you look at their like relationship and you think that's not healthy. But like you just said, it's until that person recognises it themselves, it's very difficult, because the general thing that's going to happen is if you try and confront that, they're going to sort of take it out on you, or you're potentially going to risk or lose the friendship for it.
Exactly, and I think it's, for me anyway, I felt so shameful that I would be bad mouthing my husband that I was like, well, I can't. That's not how. Well, to me, that wasn't how a relationship worked. You didn't bad mouth the person that you was married to. Yeah. So if somebody suggested that to me, I'd have been like, no. I'd have been defending them. So yeah, it is really hard. And I think if you have got friends that are going through it, the best thing you can do is just be there for them for when they're ready. And it's hard to say let them know you're there for them, but make sure they know you're there and you can talk to them about anything. kind of thing. I think that's the best kind of thing I can say. I've spoken to loads of people since who have come to me and said, how do I support my friend? And that is the best way, is just to be there. No pressure, because as soon as you put pressure on somebody, they'll probably dig their heels in more.
So your situation with your ex-husband, was it generally based around sort of controlling your financial freedom?
Controlling the finances, but controlling me as a person, what I could and couldn't do. Putting me down a lot. Made me feel absolutely worthless, and that I wasn't able to leave him because I wouldn't survive without him. And yeah, if I did something he deemed was wrong, that he'd just go off on one and be horrible, basically. And just, yeah, it wasn't a nice environment. And I thought I'd hid it from the children, but the littlest one didn't have a clue, he was too young, but the older one definitely heard and saw some things.
They're incredibly perceptive, more than we give them credit for, aren't they? Kids, they pick up. I think they just pick up on just the atmosphere. That there's like a tension, isn't there? Like an invisible tension, as it were, that kids can register, and that they'll pick up on you being uptight and nervous to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing.
Yeah, and it's really weird because they both reacted differently to it. So my youngest, I say little, he's not little now, he's 15, but he's very protective of me, and he's very he wants nothing to do with his dad, and he's very wise beyond his years. I think he knows a lot more now, not everything, but he knows a lot more now, and has said to me as soon as he found out the extent, he was like, well, if I'd have known that, I'd have cut him off with him a lot earlier. And I was like, but you're a child, of course I've protected you from it as much as I possibly can. The eldest is brainwashed and thinks his dad's the best thing ever because his dad buys him stuff. So it's really, really hard. And it's weird how the two have experienced the same thing but come out differently.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I completely understand your position on it. It's difficult, isn't it? Because it seems that there's certain people, I'm not saying this is the case in your instance, but there's certain people that seem to be able to be like terrible partners romantically, but still good parents.
Yeah.
And that's a really difficult balance, because you've got the trauma that they've caused to the other parent in the relationship. I don't know. I mean, that's a really difficult one to...
It is. It's really hard. And I've got quite strong views on I wanted to protect my boys. I didn't want them around him.
I mean, ultimately, to caveat that, you're saying, somebody can be a bad partner and a good parent. No, if you're showing that behaviour in front of the kids, then that's never a good parent anyway. Yeah. So to set that example could never be. It wouldn't matter. You can't treat your partner, whether that's male or female, in that way in front of the kids and then still be okay with the kids. That still makes them a terrible parent.
Yeah.
Just to make that clear that's my view.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think I've got some really strong views on, I don't think the parents should then be able to see the children, but the law doesn't agree. But that's a whole other subject. But it is really hard, and all I've wanted to do is protect the boys.
Of course.
And I've not been able to. Well, I have with one, but I haven't with the other, and it's really hard. And yeah, my youngest has definitely got his head screwed on, and he asks questions and he wants to understand. And seeing him now in his first relationship is lovely, because I can see some of the things that he's learned off the back of that on how to treat a girl, and it's really sweet. Don't get me wrong, he's a teenager, he makes mistakes, they're gonna.
We all do. Yeah.
But he wants to be the best he can be.
I guess that's lovely. As a parent, that's the biggest fear, isn't it? That they'll see and mimic the behaviour, or repeat the mistakes of obviously your ex-partner. And I guess having sons is more difficult, because it's the concern of are they going to take after or copy that behaviour if they've been exposed to it. It's tough.
It is, but I think there's a lot of awareness now, and it is talked about in schools. And there was a lady on TV a couple of weeks ago who is a really good example for children or teenagers on talking about it, and she wants to share it a lot more as well. And I think it's something that we do need in schools.
Do you ever do anything like that? Do you ever do talks, public talks about those
I
kind of
have
things?
done some public talks, and I want to do more of them.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'm not sure I'm the right person to come into a school. I don't know. I think somebody younger might be better for that. Although I don't really want somebody younger to experience it. But I think somebody who's closer in age would probably resonate with the children more.
Maybe, but I mean, you've had a lot of time to process it.
Yeah.
And then come to sort of conclusions that aren't maybe motivated by emotion.
Yeah.
So, like, objectively look out. I think you could still do a great job of highlighting that to kids. So I think one of the biggest things that your story can illustrate is the fact that abuse and domestic abuse doesn't centre around physical.
Yeah.
You know, and just raising that awareness of actually what constitutes, because you mentioned it yourself, because it wasn't physical, you're then questioning yourself. Well, is this an abusive relationship initially, and missing those red flags and markers? There's probably, and there might even be somebody listening to this podcast right now that would be in a relationship that is abusive, that doesn't actually realise that it's abusive because their parents, you know, had the same sort of relationship, and it's stepping out of that spiral, isn't it? Because there's a generational thing when you go back so many years where it was sort of more male dominant in relationships, and it's stepping out of that pattern, isn't it?
It really is. And I think I didn't really believe it, even though I was experiencing it and it was getting worse and worse and worse. I still didn't really believe it until years later when we got the police involved. And the police sergeant said it was one of the worst cases of control aspect he'd seen. And I suddenly was like, so it was real then? And they were like, it was very real. And I was just like, wow, okay. And that's when I was able to then start healing from it.
Yeah.
And realise that all the things that I'd been conditioned to think about myself, how rubbish I was, useless, and all the other terms and stuff that he would use, that I'd be beating myself up over, I could then go, well, maybe I'm not. And my husband now has been able to help me see a lot of that, but I still needed to do a lot of work for myself.
How long were you in that relationship?
It's probably... I've blocked quite a lot of it out, but it was probably around 10 years.
That's a good chunk of your
just
life,
under,
isn't it?
Maybe. Yeah, just under 10 years, I think. 9 years.
Mm.
So yeah, it was all I ever knew for a long, long time.
And that was from quite an early age as well. It was like...
Yeah, early 20s.
Yeah, you're still developing and sort of growing into who you are at that age as well. I mean, I remember in my early 20s, I thought I was the full article. But like, you grow a hell of a lot throughout your 20s and into your 30s. It's kind of formative years.
It really is. And I think only now, in my 40s, that I'm actually learning who I am and how I best do things and how I can actually look after myself in the best way. My husband and I was actually having a conversation last night about how he used to be the life and soul of the party, and I used to be quite sociable. I'd love to be out, seeing people, doing things, but actually both of us just love being at home. And it's like, a few people have said, oh, you've changed, but I'm like, yeah, but have we changed, or was that always us? But we've just put a mask on because it was the only, we didn't know ourselves enough. We just thought that was what we needed to be.
I'm very similar now.
Yeah.
I guess I was conditioned by my environment, the people I was around, to think that, you know, I was told what a weekend was.
Yeah.
Like, a weekend means on Friday you go out, or, you know, you have a few beers because you've had a hard week. On Saturday, I used to think I hadn't had a weekend if I hadn't gone out drinking on a Saturday night. I'm close to, I couldn't think of anything worse now. I mean, this weekend, for example, my wife is, she's got like a paid function thing that she's at today hosting. But I said to her, because she said to me, she was like, I don't know whether I'm going to stay in a hotel or come home tonight. And I went, before she left, I went, you know, I'll be in bed by 10. So, like, let me know what you're doing. But if it's after 10, I'm not opening that message. I'll be asleep.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm so protective over my sleep, Cheryl, honestly. I can't think, if there's anything, I still enjoy a social occasion now and again, like the odd party, whether it's a birthday or somebody's occasion. But just going out for the sake of going out, nah, not interested.
No, we laugh because we like have a date night and we'll get ready, we'll go out, we'll have dinner, and we'll be home within an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, just gonna cup of tea in bed. That's it.
Yeah, you spend more time getting ready than you actually do when you're out. Yeah, I know that one. It's the trade-off, I think, isn't it? When you know how tired you're going to be and how crap it's going to make you feel the next day.
Exactly. But I think I've also learned that about me, because I would have such, I wouldn't say highs and lows, but I'd be out socially. Well, didn't really even drink that much, but I'd be out because I didn't want to miss out and because all these things were happening and stuff. And then I'd be absolutely drained and I just didn't understand it. And it's only now that I've done a lot of work, I know I'm very introverted. I don't like going out. I don't like being out late. And now I'm quite happy when I go to like work events and things. It's generally a party. Everyone wants to go to the party. And I'm like, no, you all crack on.
Happy to let it go.
I'm going to go and have dinner in that restaurant down the road that I really like. And then I'm going to bed. I'll see you all in the morning. You can all be hungover and I'm going to be nice and fresh. And I also know that after a lot of people things, I need like a day or two of nothing.
Yeah.
Don't want to see no one, don't want to talk to no one, not even the kids or my husband. I just sit there. I'm like, I'm talked out, I'm done.
Yeah.
But a lot of people see that as quite rude, but I know that that's me just recharging my own batteries and I know I need to do it.
It's good that you've got to know yourself on that level.
Yeah.
Because like you say, most people, they're told who they are. They're told, whether that's by their social circle or whether that's by society as a whole, you're told what to do and where to, you know, I mean, I hate being told what to do. I've got a bit of a problem with that. It's things like, this is how stupid it is with me though, Cheryl. It's like this weekend's a bank holiday. That annoys me because someone's telling me it's a bank holiday. So I'm like, no, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
So just to prove. And then if I want a day off, I'm going to take it when I want it. So
I'm working because it's quiet and no one's going to be emailing me or wanting me, so I'm going to work.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got the same thing next week. So bank holiday Monday, I've got 2 jobs running next week and both of them customers have gone on holiday because it's half term as well.
Yeah, it's half term.
So that's exactly my thought. I'm like, it's going to be great. The roads are going to be quiet. Monday, I've got the whole week with 2 empty houses. Monday, nobody will be at work. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
so
it is. I know that Monday, I can just crack on the whole day. No one's going to be wanting me. And I can just do what I want to do, get my stuff done. And I'm having Thursday off because it's my wedding anniversary. So
okay. Well, congratulations in advance. How many years this time round?
6.
Okay.
6. So, yeah. And we're going to a very country Suffolk show. Gonna go and spend the day with our dogs in a field and pray it don't rain.
Fingers crossed for you on that one. I want to sort of, before we move away from the subject, I don't mean to keep talking about it if it's a point of pressure, but I just feel it's so important. There's a few things I want to cover, which is, first of all, sort of, I guess if you could sort of tell anyone who's listening really that the key things to look out for, as in like, because my biggest thought on this subject from your perspective, this kind of abuse, is the amount of people that will be in that abuse without knowing it's abuse. Just thinking it's normal, it's normal for that kind of level of control. But is there any clear definition on, because you also mentioned that the police were involved, so there must be some kind of criteria that makes it actually a crime?
There is, and I'm not fully in with all the legal stuff because I could have prosecuted, but I decided not to because mine was quite a while after, so obviously there was no evidence and things like that. So it is really hard. But generally, if somebody is making you feel rubbish about yourself, if they're controlling you, as in telling you what you can and can't do, stopping you from doing the things that you do want to do, you find it, your friends kind of drift away, your family you lose contact with, but it's not what you want. I think one of the typical ones that I see a lot is where the wife or girlfriend stops work because they have children, and then they're given an allowance, but they're told what they can and can't spend the money on, or they're not given enough, but they're expected to pay all the bills or pay certain bills, but they're not given enough money to do so because they haven't got money because they're not working, so they're relying on their husband. And it's all little things like that that possibly in isolation may not cause a red flag, but if there's more of them, then there are. And just generally, if they're doing things that you don't like or make you not feel good about yourself, or like putting you down constantly. I was constantly put down and told how useless I was, but I just believed it. And I thought, well, okay, that's true. I just got on with it. I think the hardest thing is it's, and I think it was Mel B actually used this analogy, and I think it's a really, really good one, is, you know, oh, you may not know, but in France when they eat frogs, or even lobsters, I think it's the same actually, they're boiled alive in a boiling pan because it's done gently and they don't know about it until it's too late. And that's exactly the same way it is with abuse, like the control inside and things, because it's so little, and then before you know it, it's full blown.
Before you know it, you're in the boiling water. Yeah, I know the analogy, and it's a perfect one for that situation. So it's so the behaviour starts off with little bits, and
but even things like, 'cause a lot of people are told that if they leave, something's going to happen. I definitely had that. I was told I wouldn't see the children. I was told I'd be put under the patio. Some people are told their family or friends would be injured and hurt and things like that. So if there's threats, again, like that, there may not be the physical violence, but there may be threats of it. And even that is not right, and it's not on.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that goes without saying.
Yeah. But funnily enough, only until a few years ago, that was still legal.
Legal to make those threats?
Because there's no, controlling, coercive, economic, all of those kind of types of abuse weren't illegal. You'd think they would have been the standard, but they weren't.
Well, thank God they are.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and also I appreciate and thank you for being one of the people that are talking about your experience and speaking out to raise awareness around it, and then help others that could potentially be in that situation. I mean, I'm going to pause there to thank this episode's sponsors, Abode Academy. Abode offer practical-based spray courses in Wiltshire and Manchester. They teach airless spraying, kitchen and furniture spraying, UPVC spraying, special effects including metal and workshop refurbishment courses. I myself have been on their airless course and I really enjoyed it. They teach in small groups, so it's a laid-back environment and very hands-on, loads of time on the sprayers. Their courses are approved by the Construction Industry Training Board, otherwise known as CITB, so you know you're getting good quality training. They offer full aftercare support and have their own range of spray equipment, which is top quality at affordable prices, and the aftercare they give is nothing short of amazing. If you're thinking of getting into spraying, you can check out their website at www.abodeacademy.co.uk, or you can search them up at Abode Academy on Instagram, as they post loads of helpful spraying content with tips and tricks. Thanks to the team at Abode Academy for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Let's get back to the episode. There's a couple of things I want to ask you. I want to ask you when breaking point happened for you, because obviously you did get out of that relationship, and we'll talk about that. But before we move sort of past that, if there is anyone listening that's in that kind of situation where they might be thinking or starting to become aware that they're being controlled, what do they do?
I'd say confide in a friend that you trust. Sometimes it's easier to confide in someone that you don't know that well because it's less personal. I think the first few people I told were people that were more acquaintances than friends, because it felt safer and easier. There's some incredible organisations out there. Refuge have got the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, which is available. Women's Aid, the Men's Advice Line, Samaritans, all of those have got people there that can help and speak to them. And if you're somebody and you think your friend's going through it, again, those organisations will all help you support your friend as well, or loved one.
With your situation, Cheryl, was a lot of it, because I was thinking one of the things that went through my mind then was, in terms of reaching out and speaking to somebody, it could be quite difficult if you as a couple have like couple friends.
Yeah.
But then I thought that's assuming that the behaviour was hidden from them. Was that the case with you?
Oh yeah, our friends didn't have a clue. They thought he was the best person ever because that's the image he portrayed to everybody else.
Yeah. And he never let slip out in front of other people.
No, and it could be something as simple as a look to me that I'd know, well, I need to shut up now. And then we'd get in the car afterwards or wherever and he'd be like, you was embarrassing. You did this, you did that. I'm embarrassed to be seen with you. And things like that. And all I probably was doing was having a chat with my friends. And I may have actually spoken to the whole table or something. But that wasn't what he deemed that I should be doing. So, but again, it would have been more of a look or pulling me aside, which no one would have noticed.
Yeah. I think when you spend that much time with somebody, it does get down to that, doesn't it? Like they can literally just a millisecond glance at you and you think, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like you know what's coming later sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's with our parents, wasn't it? If we're in the supermarket playing up, they had a look.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
You're
Look,
like,
I mean,
"Ooh."
very different situation, but it's like I do it with my son at work.
Yeah.
You know, particularly if customers are around and I can see him doing something wrong, there's a look of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he'll pick up on it. So yeah, I guess in that kind of environment that would be very easy to keep under the carpet, wouldn't it?
It is, and I think that's the thing as well. And quite often, these people would be influential people. There would be the life and soul of the party. They'd be in positions of power, very well paid, highly professional jobs. Best policemen out there that are perpetrators, and it's just it's really hard. And I think the media doesn't help either, because how many times do we see in the newspapers, oh, we never would have believed it of him, he's such a this, he's such a that, he's a head teacher. I think there was one. And then they also kind of turn it on, well, what did she do to make him do that? And it's like, no, it's not us. It's all them.
You know what though, Cheryl? I mean, you saying that, like, my thoughts on that were actually that makes sense, that somebody that was controlling in a relationship would move themselves into a position of control and power in work. So, you know, almost like police and head teachers and things, that would kind of be and that's, listen, I'm not saying everyone in the police is it, but you'd almost think that if they've got that in their personality, then they probably do work in jobs like that. Yeah. Because it's the control element.
It is a control element, but also it's the facade. Oh, he can't be like that because look at him. Is this? Is that?
Upstanding pillar of community kind of types.
Yeah, it's quite sad. And of course, it's the opposite way around as well with women. A lot of men experience it as well. 1 in 7 men. Yeah, no,
absolutely, 1,000,000%. We can't gloss over that. Appreciate it wasn't your experience. I've personally never experienced that. So it's not a subject that I can sort of delve into. I'd like to, if anyone listening has been through that and come out the other side of male domestic abuse, I'd love to sit down with somebody and discuss that, because I know it is a very genuine, credible issue that goes on as well.
It definitely is. And I think probably not so much the violence, although obviously there is the violence, but a lot of control element there with men. Yeah. I know somebody who's, again, didn't realise they was in an experience until it was far, far too late. And they just thought that the behaviour their wife showed was normal.
I think it's a very different dynamic. Funnily enough, actually, only last week I saw a video. It was like a social experiment, and they'd around domestic abuse, and they'd got 2 actors, and they had gone out in public and had the same actors, male and female. They'd had them have an argument in public, in a very public setting, and they'd had the man grab the woman by the chest and push her against, I think it was a fence or something, and loads of people came over. Oh, you know, you can't do that, stop what you're doing. They sort of said, look, you know, it's a social experiment, thanks for getting involved, kind of thing. Yeah. Then they flipped it and had the woman shouting at the man, berating him, grabbing him by the hair, pushing him up. I think they even slapped him. and they recorded the public, and people were laughing, and then there were people getting their phone out and recording it, just to show the difference in how it's perceived. And listen, each instance is equally as wrong as each other. But yeah, I think there's definitely men out there that will be struggling, and there's a whole different dynamic to it, because I think from a male perspective, to put your hand up and sort of go, look, I'm a victim of domestic abuse in my relationship, holds different sort of like social consequence. I guess as a man, you're going to be, I shouldn't, I'm meant to be the strong one, that kind of image thing. So it's a whole other subject. But as I say, equally on each side, like it's a horrendous issue for anyone to be caught up in any side of domestic abuse, male, female, female, male. So yeah, I understand that obviously you can only talk about your side of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an issue that, again, I really appreciate you spending the time coming in here to discuss and open up and raise, because I'm sure there will be people that need to hear the message that you've got. I mean, out of interest, Cheryl, if anyone has heard this and wants any more information, are you okay with people reaching out to you?
Yeah, definitely. I have people reach out to me all the time, and I think sometimes it's easier to reach out to a stranger or somebody has had their own experience, because straight away you're not going to get judged.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always happy for people to reach out.
I'll tag all you, so wherever you're watching or listening to this, look in the episode description. Cheryl's socials will be tagged down there, so if you do need to, please do reach out directly. What I mentioned that I did want to speak to you about was the breaking point, the point where you got to where you either recognised that you were in an abusive relationship or had to make that change.
Yeah, so there was two really. So the one where I realised I needed to get out was an instant, stupid as it sounds, over pasta sauce. And this is actually probably a really good example to share, because it's probably something that happens in kitchens all the time, is you have an argument over your dinner. But he was on some diet, so I was eating and cooking my own dinners. So I'd bought a pasta sauce for one, because obviously I'm not going to buy pasta sauce for two and waste half of it. But he took offence to that, and massive blow up. And that was one of the incidents where it did turn violent, and he did pull out a knife and threaten me. And I managed to get away, and I remember being somehow shut in my utility room, and I had a friend down the road who was married to his friend, but she was still my friend, and I rang her. She never answered. I then rang my brother, and he never answered. And I was like, seriously, the first time I've been ready to reach out and nobody's answering their phone. And that kind of then all blew over again, and I just carried on and on and on. And then things must have been really bad, and he moved out temporarily, thinking that I'd then be begging him to come back. Like I'd apologise for being bad or whatever I'd done in his eyes wrong at the time. But I saw that as my chance, and he moved out, and I spoke. My mum worked in a solicitor's firm, so I rang my mum, and I was like, "Mum, I need to speak to your boss, please." And straight away she put me through, and I had a really good chat with the lady. I still didn't disclose everything, but I just said I need to get out, and she then started the ball rolling for me. And it was really tough, because I didn't want to involve the police. It was really hard then to get the protection I needed for him to stay away. But I don't think I shared everything with her initially anyway, and it wasn't until afterwards. I think he was threatening to come back, and that's when I shared it with the solicitor, and then she did put a few steps in place so he couldn't. And that's when things really started moving forward for me to get out. But yeah, if it wasn't for that solicitor helping me, I don't think I'd have got out.
Really?
I probably would have carried on. Oh, at some point I would have got out, but I wouldn't have got out then.
Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it? But I mean, fortunately, you did.
Yeah,
And
I
that
did.
series of events led you to the correct place, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that, because it's I always think it's important to discuss the front and
Yeah.
back end of things, as it were.
Yeah.
And again, to let people know that they can
Yeah.
sort of get out
I
of
can
things.
get out. I'd say the only thing is it didn't end there, unfortunately, because I had the children. There was the post separation abuse, so it continued up until how was it? Up until mid COVID, of all the times. And yeah, there was an incident that blew up, and that's when we got the police involved.
Okay.
But it would carry on, and in a different format, because obviously I wasn't living with him, I wasn't seeing him, I wasn't speaking to him.
And this is whilst you're in your new relationship.
Yeah, which he didn't like, obviously, because he couldn't control me anymore. But it would be the emails that he'd send me, text messages, all things like that, letting me down, couldn't rely on him to have the children. So again, there was still that element of control, because
Yeah.
he's meant to have the children, then he decides he doesn't want the children that day, or he can't pick them up at the time agreed, or whatever it is. And it was even a case of where he would pick them up from school on a Friday, because I worked later on a Friday in London. Literally every Friday at 3:00, I'd be watching my phone, because I'd be dreading the fact that he wouldn't have picked the children up, just to get at me. And just all the little things. And there was so many times where he'd leave things to the last minute, if he was meant to be picking them up or not, or dropping them off or anything like that, just to annoy me. And so unfortunately it doesn't go away immediately. It wasn't until
I think once you've had kids with somebody, though, Cheryl, unfortunately, you are tied to them for quite a long time.
You are, unfortunately. But yeah, and it's just the money side of it as well then was hard, because I was reliant on my maintenance money, and again, every day it was due, I was like, is it actually going to come? And yeah, relying on that was horrible. And I think that was one of the things that spurred me on to become financially independent, because I didn't want to have to rely on him for money.
And I know that's one of the things on your social media that you push and promote a lot, is financial freedom for women.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, one of the things that I focus on in a lot of episodes is the value in trauma, which sounds bizarre, but it's one of those situations, a little bit, what you've gone through has given you that passion to push that now.
Yeah.
So that's the value taken from that trauma, which you can then use to turn things into a more positive light. Not to say that you'd ever wanted to go through what you've gone through, but you can't do anything about that now. It's been, it's gone, it's done.
Yeah.
I know it's left trauma and it will leave wounds, but when you can flip that into, but from that I've taken this.
Yeah.
That to me, it just helps.
It does. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And for years and years and years, I was like, but why did that happen to me? I couldn't understand it. And I was really getting frustrated, like, well, why did that happen? And now I do know why it happened, because it gave me my boys. And through the boys, I've met my current husband. So I wouldn't have met him without them. And it's also now led me to doing the work that I'm doing, raising awareness, sharing my story, helping other people. And if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't be on this podcast now.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't be here today
because
I wouldn't. So
it's taking your pain and trauma that you went through and helping others with it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully trying to pull other people out of situations that they might be in, or just plant that seed. Just that seed of, oh, hold on, what she said kind of sounds a little bit like what's going on here.
Yeah.
Or even for people listening that might be observing a relationship situation like that they're around, that doesn't quite seem right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and also I want to be able to show people that there is life after abuse, and that it is possible to get away. It is possible to rebuild your life and be happy again, because I think there's two big things that keep you stuck in a relationship like that. Money is a huge, huge one, but also, and this is going to sound mad, but bear with me, you feel that it's safer to stay than to go, because you don't know what going looks like. The only view of going that you potentially might see is what they've told you, which of course they're going to scare you to stay. So by me showing what is possible once you've left may help people to think, actually, I can do it, I can leave. And for me, I think that's one of the bigger things, because, yeah, you don't know that the grass is greener because you don't know. And it is, you're staying somewhere because it feels safe, because it feels a safer option, even though it's not safe, if that makes sense.
Well, you're told it's safe.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the really big things that I'm trying to show people, that they can.
I would imagine as well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine as a mother as well, Cheryl, there's that element of not only are you making that decision, but you're making that decision for you and your sons. So it's what isn't safe for you, but it's then what isn't safe for the kids as well.
Yeah.
And that's a huge pressure to have that, well, I'm going to make a massive decision here now to walk away from this situation. But I would imagine if the kids were happy and safe in that environment, you're then giving them uncertainty as well.
Yeah.
And having that pressure, I mean...
Yeah, and it's like, oh, how am I going to feed them? How am I going to clothe them? How am I going to... Are they going to have somewhere to live? And it's all those questions that I had back then. And I'm just like, well, I can't do that to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, but staying isn't safer. But it just feels like it was, because the thought of leaving was just too big. It's just too much to it. And I think a lot of people, especially the ladies I've spoken to, have also had those sort of thoughts. Where do they go? How do they do it? How do they do that with their children? And it is really, really hard. But you can do it. I'm living proof for that. And if I can do it, then other people can.
100%, yeah. I mean, you're sat here now as a business owner and obviously in a much, much better place, in a happy relationship, and, your kids are there happy doing their thing as well. So there is that light at the end of the tunnel. It's just really hard to see, I guess, from that position. Let's pause there quickly to thank our headline sponsors, Zinza. And in particular, take a moment to talk about their incredible product, Zinza Bin Aqua. Zinza Bin Aqua is a water-based primer, sealer, stain killer and odour blocker all in one. It has trace VOCs. You can use this product inside and outside, and it will block knots, sap streaks, water, mould stains and more. We've used Zinza Bin Aqua in our business on many occasions, and it has never let us down. With that in mind, let's get back to the episode.
It is really hard. But yeah.
Who did you turn to, any of these organisations in terms of?
I didn't at the time. I have since, and I have done a few things with a couple of different charities now. I'm currently working with a women's centre, stroke refuge, now, sharing my story and helping them decide what they want for their next chapter, which is really rewarding and sad at the same time.
I was just going to ask you, how do you find working with people that are in that situation? Is it triggering at all for you to hear other people's tales of abuse and control?
It can be. And I do find that I have to be very careful on the conversations I have. And if it gets too much into it, then I do pull myself out of it. But I think, I don't know, it seems to be a bit of an unwritten rule that we all know when we can't talk about it, when we've got to a point where we're like, no, I'm done now. But also I've been able to detach myself a lot from my own experience, which has helped. Don't get me wrong, I'm 12, 13 years clear of it, so I've had a long time to deal with it. I've had a lot of therapy and stuff, so I am in a place now where I can detach more from it.
How did the therapy, did that help? Was that helpful?
It really helped, yeah. Didn't get help for a long time, as many people don't, when they need it. And it did take until I was in crisis to actually reach out and ask for help. But it was the best thing I ever did.
Remind me, was that private or was it NHS?
It was private. I did speak to the doctor, And good old doctor told me to, I can't remember what she said now, but basically take a holiday.
I prescribe you a holiday.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Take a holiday and chill out, and can't remember what else, but it was very flippant. And
Here's some pills, go away.
no, they didn't even offer me pills.
No, just a holiday and chill.
Just to de-stress and take some time out. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, weirdly enough, a mummy's group on Facebook, and I just put a message out saying, does anyone know any counsellors? I need help. And one of the ladies on there messaged me straight back privately and was so lovely, and literally within a few days I was having a call with her. But it was all mid-COVID, so you couldn't see anyone in person.
Oh, it was all remote, yeah.
So it's all remote. But to be fair, I think I found that a bit easier because it was that little bit more detached. And it took that barrier of having to actually go somewhere. Because I think that's another thing is, for me anyway, if I had to go somewhere, I'd have made every excuse
not to go.
But having Zoom calls all day, every day, even before COVID, I was used to that kind of thing. So it was just felt that little bit easier for me to do.
Again, I think it's each to their own, Cheryl, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, me personally, I think if I were to do therapy, I'd probably want to sit with somebody. I'm not a massive, I don't know, I always feel maybe it's because my job doesn't really put it in front of me, but I always feel really awkward on Zooms and remote. It's like when I first started doing the podcast, we did a few remote episodes, and as good as they were, there's that weird awkwardness, that little overlap of talking and, you know, the little fraction of a delay. And yeah, it just takes a little bit of the humanity away from it for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I say, it's each to their own. So I think any therapy, whether it's remote or in person, is better than none.
Definitely. And I think it's finding what works for you, because I think a lot of people may go to speak to somebody once, don't really click, oh, counselling's not for me, and that's it.
Yeah.
But you have to try a few different things. I was lucky. I found the right person for me straight away.
Do you mind me asking, because there's different modalities of therapy, which one you went towards? Because I know there's like CBD, person-centred, or psychodynamic. Are those the three?
Don't really know what she used. It was all talking therapy. And I'm trying to think now. She had a bit of a structure to it, but generally, initially, especially at the beginning, she just more let me get everything out. And
sounds more person-centred, yeah.
That must be it then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of therapists will use a combination. CBT is the one that's commonly prescribed by the NHS because it's the most easy to, it's results based a bit more, so it's easier to quantify, hence why they use it, because they can then go, oh, well, CBT is good, not taking anything away from it, but it treats the symptom more than the cause. So things like people who suffer with like OCD and things like that, or fears and phobias and anxiety and stuff like that, would be prescribed that by the NHS because it'll address that one thing and give people coping mechanisms to deal with the symptom. The issue with that is it doesn't really go back to the cause.
No.
So without a combination of the two, it can leave, you know, quite often with CBT therapy, if people are, say, I don't know, going through obsessive compulsive disorder, they'll treat that with CBT, it will work, and then that will move to something else. So they'll then develop a new compulsion or a new, you know, sort of a new issue, as it were. So, but yeah, it's a combination is usually the best.
Yeah, and I think I had counselling, I think it was potentially 6 months to a year, I can't remember exactly how long. But I was also working with a business coach alongside who specialised in mindset.
Right.
And I found I'd got to a point with the counselling where I wasn't really seeing much more benefit from it and just stuck with my coach. And I've been with her ever since, to be fair. And I found that blend of the mindset with the business is what helps me best.
To be honest with you, Cheryl, a lot of business coaches do touch on a lot of psychology that you can equate from business into your personal life. Like there's a lot of crossover.
Oh, there
and with
definitely is.
mindset, that it does cross over from personal to business life. So
It does. And yeah, we had a really good session yesterday, actually, and I got my kick up the bum metaphorically. And but yeah, she's really good at like picking up on the language, and when I start going back into the self-deprecating, she picks it straight up. And
okay,
she's there. She's like, no, you need to change your language on this and that and the other. And
interesting.
but at the same point, I'm getting the business side from it as well. So
Yeah.
it's, for me, that's what works. But I think going back to it, that's, everyone works differently and everyone needs something different. So
I'm always intrigued to hear people's experience with therapy
Yeah.
and things like that. I've never gone through it personally. I'd like to, just to explore it. I'll make all the excuses. I haven't got time, I haven't got the
Yeah.
money, all that stuff.
we all do that.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to do it at some stage, and you guys who listen to this have heard me say that a million times. But yeah, I will do it at some stage, just because I'm intrigued. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued.
Yeah, no. I think I was very scared of it beforehand, and now I've been there. I wouldn't hesitate to go back if I needed it, and I think I'd know I needed it a lot sooner now.
That's good. So you'd know your own warning signs, as it
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, definitely.
That's part of growth, isn't it? That's the growth and learning of
it's
it.
a massive part of growth.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the other side of what you do and talk about the business and the accounting and the self-employed element of that.
Yes.
Do you deal with many tradespeople?
We have actually got a few tradespeople on our books.
What's generally your experience of tradespeople and accounts?
Generally hate them. And
I'm one of them.
yes. But I always say, and I think I say this to pretty much everybody I speak to, is you didn't start your business to do accounts. There's only people like me that do. So you're not expected to know it, you're not expected to like it, and it's people like me are here to help.
So, first of all, because I know there'll be a mix of people that do their own and a mix of people that use accountants. I know you've got a slightly biased opinion on this, but what's the benefit of using a professional accountant rather than trying to do your own accounts?
First of all, stress. I know it's stressful, and it's probably the thing that you hate doing the most. So a lot of people would leave it to the last minute and sit there on the 31st of January going, oh, should have done this months ago.
I've done that.
Don't worry, lots of people do. So yeah, I'd say that is one of the biggest benefits. I probably should be more professional. So we save you tax, we save you this, that and the other. But at the end of the day, it's stress because people don't like it. So they make it, put it off, don't do it, which then becomes more stressful. And that's what we aim to do for our clients, is just take that stress factor away, take the headache and make it seem a little less scary.
I think I remember when I first set up business, I took over from my granddad, and one of the first things he said to me was, get yourself a good accountant, because a good accountant will save you money.
Yeah.
Explain that one. How does a good accountant save you money?
Two ways. So first of all, yes, we do know all the tax, well, not all of them, most of the tax laws. And we know how to make sure that you're being as tax efficient as possible. So not necessarily the ways to get around paying tax, but the ways to make sure you're paying the right amount of tax.
Yeah.
And also it comes back to outsourcing. So it's the opportunity cost. So if you're spending a whole day trying to do your accounts, what is it that you could have earned working that day rather than doing your accounts? And potentially your day rate could be more than we charge for a tax return. For example, it may not be quite, but...
I mean, I know this might be a bit of a how long's a piece of string. Ballpark, one-man band with a turnover of, say, £50,000 a year, what would it ballpark cost to have an accountant process your tax return?
So it depends on the type of service that you want. So there are people out there that literally will just do your tax return, see you once a year, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're looking probably between 150 to maybe 300-400.
Okay.
Depending on the company. We do things a little bit different. because I don't believe in that once a year tick a box exercise. Yes, we're saving you a bit of money, saving you a bit of stress, but we're not really helping. So we speak to all of our clients regularly, at least quarterly, with quarterly reporting, so that they know where they are throughout the year, so therefore they know what tax bills are likely to be coming up, so you can save for them, or at least it's not a stress on the 31st of January, an hour before the deadline, thinking, oh my God, I've now got to find how many thousands to pay my tax bill.
Yeah.
You know what it's likely to be. So we charge obviously a lot more for that, and we are software based, so you've got to take into software costs and things as well. So I think we start about £70 a month.
Okay. And does that include the software that you need to run your accounts throughout the year?
Software and the tax return and quarterly check-ins.
That doesn't sound too... See, that's the other thing, isn't it, Cheryl? There's a big change to tax in the UK coming next year in terms of the way that we report.
Yeah.
You're better to explain that than me.
Yeah. So at the moment, you all do tax return. Well, assuming you're all sole traders, limited companies are different. Limited companies are not affected just yet. So I'm just focusing purely on sole traders here. Do tax return once a year by the 31st of January, pay your tax, potentially pay payments on account. You probably CIS as well. Some of you will have had that taken off. From next April, software is coming in, and certain people at certain levels, I don't want to go too technical, but if you're over £50,000 in sales, so not profit but sales,
so turnover,
then you're going to need to start using software, and you're going to need to start filing a summary report every quarter through the software that you're using.
So that breaking it into tradie terms, so that's a digital return once every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be one in July, one in October. I've lost my months now. One in January, and then one in April. And then you still need to do a final one the following January as well.
So you still have to do a yearly return. You still have to do the yearly on top of now quarters.
So yeah, so it's going from 1 to 5.
Brilliant, that's great.
Yeah, but software, I'm going to really geek out now. Software is there to make your life a lot easier, and I'm personally a huge fan of this because so many people do leave it all to the last minute. Panic, stress causes all sorts. And that's what gets people into situations where they're in debt and can't pay tax bills and things like that. So software, will make your life a lot easier as you go, but it forces you to keep on top of it. And the softwares should give you like a summary of where you're at tax-wise each time you put a submission in. So you should then be more aware of what your tax bill is going to be.
These quarterly returns, are they going to be manually returned, or are they going to be like automatic off the back of software?
So you put it all into the software, and then you'd click a couple of buttons. And I'm really making this a lot simpler than it is. But yeah, it'd be a couple of buttons. You get your summary. If you're happy with it, you file it.
Okay.
Even if you're not happy with it, you have to file it, unfortunately. But you get to see it before it gets filed, so you don't. It's not an automatic thing that will just happen.
Right. So me personally, I've been through the CIS system. I've been registered on it as a subcontractor and main contractor. Like as a main contractor, I have to put a return in every month.
Yeah.
To let them know whether I've paid any subbies, whether I've not paid any subbies. I guess it will kind of be a similar sort of system.
Similar, yeah. It'd be very similar. So I can't guarantee what all the softwares out there will be. We are Xero partners, and I personally love it. I think it's one of the easiest to use.
That's Xero.
Xero, yeah, Xero.
You can sponsor the podcast.
They can.
we need some accountancy software sponsors. There we go.
Okay.
Great opportunity.
If
you've got a contact,
I've got a contact. I know exactly.
They want to reach out to tradespeople. this is a place to do it.
And yeah, so you connect up your bank account. So have a separate business bank account if you haven't already. That'll make your life a lot easier as well. And you can raise invoices and send them out through the software. So a lot of people now, we know, that use like Word documents or spreadsheets to do that, and it takes them 10, 15 minutes maybe, at least, to do. You can do it in a couple of minutes on the software. You can do it literally from your phone on the go. So there's a lot of benefits there as well. The bank's all connected, so you can just match up your ins and your outs and say what they're for, and then it'll put it into a nice little report for you. So you don't even need to go through and go, oh, like, and do it all yourself and put it into categories, add it up or anything. The software will do it all for you. And then it says, right, this is your ins, this is your outs, this is your profit that you got to pay tax on. And it will take into account as well the CIS, I believe.
Okay. And how is this going to affect when we pay tax? Is it
still the same?
Still yearly?
Still
or 6 monthly, isn't it?
Yeah, still by the 31st of January is the main one. And then if you're over the £1,000 and you do payments on account, it'll still be January and July.
Oh, okay.
So that they're not changing.
So it's not going to be that we've got to pay them 5 times a year now?
No. Can't guarantee they won't change that in the future, obviously. But for right now, no. And I've not heard any plans to do that.
And there's no getting around this. So we've all got to... I'm not going to give my opinion on it.
No.
We've all got to get on board and do it if you're self-employed. So this is provided you turn over more than 50,000.
50,000 starts next year. Between the 30 and 50 will be the year after, so that's April 27. And then I believe April 28 will be the next level down. But that's not confirmed yet.
Right. Okay. Fun.
Sorry. But I promise you software will make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's going to force you to stay on top of it means you can't leave it. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that we see with our clients is people will leave it to the last minute and then stress about it. And then it becomes this massive big thing that you've got to do. And
I've been guilty of it, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Like, some years I've been really good and I'm up to date and it's, I get it in nice and early. Some years I've put my return in as soon as the April deadline passes and I get the, as it used to be, the paper returns. But I'll put my return in, and then other years I've left it right until the death, and ended up having to have not just one day off, but a couple of days off to sort out my paperwork, go through my bank accounts, put it all together, and actually get the return in. Which, as you quite rightly said, then is then loss of earnings. So it would have been cheaper to have paid somebody to do it.
Yeah.
The fact that everything is going online now. I've got my opinions on the visibility of it all and the control element of that.
Yeah.
But leaving that aside, it should actually make it all easier.
Yeah, it should do. And I said I am a fan of it for the majority of the reasons of it's going to make your life easier for the most part, and it'll force you to be up to date. You can't then leave it and stress and cause all those issues. But even those who don't leave it and that, you probably are spending a fair few hours every week, every month doing it.
Yeah.
And evenings and things like that. So with Xero, you can also do quotes. So again, I know how long my husband takes doing quotes and stuff, and it's not easy, but that will help to make that a lot easier as well.
To be honest with you, Sharon, I mean, so I'm doing maths in my head as you're talking. You're saying like 70 quid a month, including the software. Well, I pay £25 a month for quoting software right now. So we use Invoice to Go at the minute for invoicing and taking payments and estimating. But if you can roll that all into one system, I mean, that's that money saved and off the cost.
Yeah.
I also use a diary system that's online. I don't know, does it include that?
No, it doesn't include
No?
that.
Oh, well, that's a fail then. If they could include that, that'd be great. But I mean, to be honest with you, I guess there's probably not that I'm a app or software tech, but there's probably a gap in the market for an all-in-one.
There are some all-in-one ones out there. There are some add-ons that connect with Xero. And that's going to annoy me now because I can't think what they're called. But there is a really good trades one that I see every time I go to trade shows.
I've heard Tradeify is a big one.
and there's another one, but I can't think what it's called.
Haven't looked at them though, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have to get savvy on it. Listen, I'm one of those people that haven't. I'm not digital. I don't use an accounts app at the moment. I do all my returns online, but I do my own returns as well. Had a fallout with an accountant years ago. So
Many people do, don't worry.
yeah, actually, it was not. To be honest, I mean, it was nothing to do with accounting, as it were. It was to do with availability. The accountant got rather shirty with me over times, and that was that. And then I ended up having to do the return myself, so I did it, and I've done my own ever since.
Yeah.
But what you said strikes a chord. You know, it's not about whether you can do your own. It's more about the economy of outsourcing certain elements of your business so that you can then concentrate on, you know, while you're working in the business, you're not working on the business. And the more time that you can take out to work on the business by simplifying things, yes, it costs money, but it saves money in the long run. So
it does. But also, it's not just saving money, because how many, well, all of us business owners, how many of us will spend our evenings or weekends doing the admin, doing the accounts, because you're too busy during the week doing the actual thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's taking you away from doing things that you want to do, spend time with friends, family, hobbies. One of my biggest successes, I suppose, is when I met a lady, completely not in trade. She was some bed shop, actually, but she would spend all Sunday putting her receipts into a spreadsheet, write it all up, send it over to her accountant and everything. And I was like, why are you doing it like that? And I showed her how to use Xero and some other bits and pieces. And she was able to get on top of her receipts as she went. And then all of a sudden she had her Sundays back, and she could spend that with her daughter, which is what she wanted to do.
that's worth the world.
And you can't put a price on that.
No.
And I think this is the thing is, yes, you can do these things, as you said, but do you really want to? Surely there's other things you want to be doing instead, whether it be work or fun stuff, or just chilling and getting over a hard week. Because let's face it, we all need the chill
100%.
time as well.
Yeah. And it comes out to your mindset on your business as well, rather than think of it as a cost from yourself that you're having to pay. Your business is paying it.
Yeah.
As long as you treat your business like a separate entity to yourself, regardless of whether you're a sole trader, then it's just a business cost, and one that we're all going to have to absorb now, because with the way legislation's changing. But use that to your advantage. Capitalise on the technology that's out there now. And, you know, if you've got to pay for it, let's at least make it pay for itself and pay us back in terms of, even like you said, if that's time, then it's worth it to me. It's just a cost of running a business now.
Yeah, and I think what we've experienced as well is a lot of people will say, oh, they've got Xero or QuickBooks Free Agent, whatever software it is that they've got, but they're not shown how to use it properly. So therefore it is seen as a cost, because it's not working the way it should be working, because they've never been told, or a lot of accountants haven't embraced it. And I have seen that. A lot of old school, traditional, what we call dinosaur accountants don't embrace the technology, and they just use it as a tool, but not the tool that it's designed to be. So a lot of people have had bad experiences with software, but if you use the software in the right way and you're shown how to use it, it does make your life so much easier.
And you do that as part of your service, which
Yeah.
is around about £70 a month.
It starts it.
Yeah.
So we show our clients how to use it, help them to use it, do it for them. So we don't just say we do everything for you, we can do bits and pieces. And I think that's the other thing as well, is you think an accountant can only do X, Y, Z. Actually talk to your accountant. So if you've got an accountant already, but they're only doing a little bit for you, we'll talk to them and say, right, well, actually, what can you take off my plate so that I can do what I want to be doing? And yeah, ask them to help you with the software, how to properly use it, because the way things are going now, you can even take card payments literally from your phone straight into your software. And it's Xero have got that all built in now, or it's coming out. And it's just incredible the things that you can do. And I think a lot of people don't want to use like digital apps or card machines and things like that, because there's a cost to it, which yes, there is. But if you can go to a job, do your job, they pay you instantly with the
Yeah.
card machine, and you're off on your own. You've forgotten about it. It's done.
Cheryl,
Dealt with.
I mean, listen, I mean, as a painter and decorator, we tend to do jobs for a couple of weeks or a week. It can be, you know, big jobs generally. But other trades such as electricians and plumbers that are maybe going in doing emergency call outs, and it's £100 here, £50 there, £80 there. If it's a Sparky, it's never £50 for anything, by the way. £300 here, £300 there. But it'd be a lot easier to take a quick card payment on site, right, bosh. And again, yes, you might be losing like whatever, 1.2 or 1.4% of the cost, but it's done.
Exactly.
You know, you haven't got to then spend time chasing it up, chasing the invoice, following unpaids up. I had this conversation years ago, 'cause I've been taking card payments for a while, and I was still getting the occasional check. And the same thing, I was like, by the time I've took that check, paid for parking, gone to a bank if you can find one that's open anymore, and took all that time out to actually bank the money, I'd rather just lose one, you know, a couple of quid, even if you've pulled in an invoice for a couple of grand and you're going to lose 20 quid on it. I'm like, that's fine. It's nothing.
Exactly. And I think, how much time do you spend chasing for that payment afterwards?
Yeah.
Because you can guarantee it's not just one text or one phone call or one email. It's a hell of a lot more. But you can also build that into the software as well. So the software will do
reminders.
the checks. But also, I can guarantee those £50 here and there, how many of them are you realistically chasing? You'll be like, if they've not paid you within a couple of weeks, you're like, I can't be asked to chase it. It's only 50 quid.
Slides.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's actually, if
Over
you'd have
the
taken
course of a
payment
year.
there, you'd have lost £1 or two, but you've lost 50 quid.
Yeah. Personally, obviously the podcast covers mental health. I think it's worth it just for that mental health element, because I think there's a degree of anxiety. I still get it now.
Oh, I do.
You know, new customers in particular. But you put a bill in, first bill for a few grand, and you get I'll transfer it you later. It's like the world's biggest lie used to be the checks in the post.
Yeah.
Now it's changed over to I'll transfer it you later. It's like, right, okay. And then some customers are golden, and that you know the money's in the bank by the time you've put the key in the ignition. Other customers, it's 24 hours, or it's that night, or maybe it's a week later. But when you're running a business, cash flow it's probably one of the hardest things to get on top of and make sure that you stay on top of, particularly if you're paying people, paying wages out, paying materials out. It's, I mean, mental health being the focus of this podcast, one of the biggest key factors and causes of poor mental health and people taking their own lives are financial worries and financial issues. So it's a huge weight that plays on our minds. And again, you know, I'm all for it if you can do anything to alleviate that. And if you've got to pay a little bit off a transaction for that, I think it's worth its weight in gold just to know that it's done. And
It definitely is. I mean, how many times do you sit there at the end of the month stressing because people haven't paid you? You've got to pay wages or end of the week or however your payrolls are done and everything. But it is really stressful. And I remember one of my early jobs, the MD would ring a bell every time we got a payment, and he'd be like, "Oh, we can have a roast tomorrow, or we've got chicken tomorrow, or lamb tomorrow, or whatever." And it was just, that was the mentality. It's like, until that money's in your bank, it's not yours.
100%.
So you want to get that money in your bank account,
Yeah.
or in your hand if it's cash, as quickly as possible.
Look, I'll be honest here. I'll hold my hands up. The amount of times that I'll finish a job on a Friday, put the invoice in, and the customer will, I'll get you sorted, Russ, we'll get you paid. And then you go home on the Friday night. And how many can resonate with this? You go home on the Friday, you check your phone maybe 3-4 times over the night. Is it in? Is it in? Is it in? Waiting for that notification, that little, I mean, I bank with Monzo, so it makes a cute little noise when it comes in. It's like, ka-ching. Waiting for that ka-ching, then checking my phone. I'm like, no, it's not on silent. Still not making that noise. Then you wake up Saturday morning, check your phone, still not in. Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday evening. How many of you sit there doing that? Because I do. I'm waiting for money to come in.
I do it.
And it's not even that I'm desperate. And listen, hands up here, and this isn't me saying it to blow my own trumpet. Generally speaking, I'm not waiting for it because I'm desperately in need of it. But there's an anxiety attached to having money outstanding. and I'm waiting, and there's that. If you could on that Friday be like, right, job done, can you pay me now? Card machine, bosh. Yes, you've maybe lost 20, 30 quid on a payment, and on if it's a large payment, that peace of mind's worth it all day long. Just to go home Friday and go, job done, job's paid. Because you get that feeling as well, even with bank transfers, the one where, keys in the ignition of the van, I'm leaving the drive, ka-ching, money's in. Just going home and having the weekend then. Yeah. Job's done, money's in the bank. It's a nice feeling. You can switch off fully. I don't think you can when you've got money outstanding. I can't, anyway, that's speaking personally. So, yeah, my advice on the subject myself would be absolutely just weigh up what's worth more to you, the mental peace, mental clarity of having it wrapped up or saving 20 quid.
Yeah. And just to clarify, that is a business expense, so it does save you a little bit of tax as well.
There you go. Absolutely tax deductible.
It is.
That's the thing, if I'm honest, Cheryl, that I think of when I think about using an accountant. It's knowing all of the things that you can claim your money back on, that you can offset against your tax bill, things that the average person might not know, clothing allowances, stuff like that. It's all the nitty-gritty ins and outs of what you can and can't offset against a tax bill. I need to have a conversation with you later.
That's fine. One thing I will say is the clothing is one that we get asked an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, all protective clothing, yes, fully tax deductible. But a lot of people wear old T-shirts and things like that, or just go to Primark and buy a load of T-shirts and that. They're not tax deductible. However, if you put your logo on it, it is.
Oh, okay.
So
next time you buy a Gucci T-shirt.
So I always remember having an argument with a client who's not in the trades, but he bought this lovely suit for work and he put it through and I was like, you can't have that. He's like, but I've got my logo on it. And I was like, damn, you can have that. But it is a soap. So yeah, that's the one thing I say, because obviously your protective is...
What a tip.
Definitely.
What a tip. Now, next question. Does it have to be on the outside of the garment? Gucci T-shirt, 400 quid, but I've got my logo on it on the inside here.
It does need to be somewhere where it's fairly obvious.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Just ruined that one, Cheryl, straight away.
Sorry. But your everyday work T-shirts, yes, if he was just buying them from Primark or whatever, you can't. But as long as you got your logo on, you're all good. So yeah, my husband, who is a tradie, gets a lot of his from Shein, so it's a little bit cheaper. And then he's just got a friend down the road, and he just takes it in and has it either printed on or embroidered. And it doesn't cost a lot, but that means it all goes through the business.
Yeah, that 100%. But it's these little things that you've just, dropped that knowledge out now so people know. I mean, me personally, when it comes to work clothes, everything's branded anyway. It's part of my business. And there's some great workwear branding companies out there that it's not all that expensive. When you work it out, you order 10 T-shirts and they work out to like 15 quid a piece, printed. And you're walking around advertising your own business. Why would you not do that? I was just about to say that. Yeah, we used to have T-shirts. We still have. But I don't wear mine very often. But I used to wear my T-shirts all the time, and I'd be in Tesco's and people would be looking at me. Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay.
I think it's massive, Cheryl. I think it's brand awareness.
It is.
And it might be that they just clock the logo, and it's that subliminal thing. They see the logo, it goes in. They don't really think much of it, but then down the line, say for me, and they're looking for a local painter and decorator, and they search online and then they see my business and my logo, there's that connection where they go, I've seen them around. And they might not remember what I look like or where I was, or I might have been in Tesco's, I might have been wherever. But there's just that brand recognition of just getting yourself out there. So I think anybody that owns a business, brand yourself up as much as possible.
Yeah.
So definitely. I'm laughing here then because I've got my own clothing range. It's all got my logos on.
Yeah.
So I'm fine.
Yeah, you're all good.
That's it. My wardrobe, only ever worn for work, obviously. But yeah, it's these kind of things that having an accountant, you can just clarify and not that you're manipulating the system, but you can use the system to your advantage.
Yeah, you're making it work for you.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. And that's what I say to all my clients. I'm not going to break rules, but we bend them and we make them work for what we want.
Tell the person how best to operate and use a
And
business within it.
And that's another thing I'd also say, actually, is there is a huge focus on saving tax. Sometimes it's not in your best interest to save tax.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the example of buying a house. So if you want to buy a house, you need to show your earnings. And if there's a certain house you want, you need a certain level of earnings to get that house. If all you're doing is saving tax, making your earnings as small as possible to pay as little tax as possible, you're never going to get the house that you want.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, taxi drivers, in particular, got stung in COVID because they make their earnings as small as possible on their tax returns and they didn't get any help. I mean, hopefully we're never, ever going to have another pandemic, touch wood, where we need that help again. But it's that principle that sometimes you need to take into account what you're trying to achieve, and is saving tax actually going to help you or not?
100%. It depends where you are in life, what you're trying to do, and where you are in terms of like, your own life goals really, and then you've got to sort of live towards that direction, I guess, to achieve what you need to achieve. I'm not, I mean, again, it's a whole conversation. We all pay tax. We all have to pay tax. I'm not a big fan of the UK system. I don't think it's particularly in the favour of the people. When you look at our system compared to other countries, I'm going to put this point out there. Dubai. Don't pay tax. One of the most profitable countries out there. And I've seen a couple of interviews with people out there and all the rest of it. And then it got me thinking, I might be overlooking something huge here, but we pay a lot of tax. We pay a very high ratage on tax. If you take away income tax, forget income tax for a minute, whatever money you've got left, everything you buy, you're going to pay VAT. You're going to pay road tax, council tax, housing tax, holiday tax. There's all these taxes on everything we spend our money on. Therefore, that money is still going back to the government, but we've got a shit quality of life as a result. Why can't we just, like, what I'm saying is, if income tax was not a thing, if we were like Dubai, the government are still going to get their money because we're going to spend more. They're going to get their money back through VAT, fuel tax, road tax, all this stuff that everything is taxed. So to me, conspiracy. But the amount of income tax that we pay, all that serves to do is reduce our quality of life.
Yeah.
And I know the government will be there going, well, we need income tax, so we've got to pay for all these things. But the way I see it is you'd still get that money, which is what the Dubai model is based on. It's like, well, if we give you your money, you're going to spend it here anyway.
Yeah.
So money comes back to the government and the local councils. And you imagine the increase in things like tourism. So you'd have increased, the hospitality industry would benefit hugely from people having more spare money, which is still money that's then going to go back to the taxman eventually. So to me, all it does is it gives us a worse quality of life.
Yeah.
And you can make your own decisions on why that might be. But yeah, so my little, I can't have a tax conversation without getting that out there.
No, that's fine. And I do agree. And I think Dubai is a massive example of a system where it works. Yes, they do pay for their own healthcare. Yes, they do pay for schools. But then the government aren't paying for that out there. So therefore they don't need as much money from you. So it's just a different way of budgeting, I guess. But for us, I probably shouldn't go into my views, but I do agree with you. And it is, we do get taxed an awful lot, and I don't think the government really look after small businesses.
No.
And small businesses are
They make it very difficult.
biggest taxpayers in the country as a group.
And this is why, we had this conversation pre-record about why I've took on this unit of the studio. We're sat here on a high street. I know you guys behind the cameras can't see it, but we're right on a high street. And the reason that I've been able to open a podcast studio on a high street is because the high street's dying. And because the lease on this unit is cheap to reflect that. If this was maybe, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, I would imagine that the relative cost, I'd never have been able to afford it because high street unit would have been prime.
Yeah.
But now, small businesses, like I say, they're just struggling. And it's, again, you can go quite down rabbit holes on why the government are not particularly supporting growth, and industry and all the rest of it. I mean, the UK now, we don't make anything. We don't. It's very difficult. Like you say, to establish a small business, it's very tough.
Yeah, and they say they're supporting us, but then they tax us. So I don't understand where they are actually supporting us. But,
Yeah.
And it does feel like if you were happy to be employed on a job and just work the job, that's it. If you're trying to better yourself, have a better life, go for a higher earning role or whatever it is,
Yep.
you're penalised for it because you're getting off your backside and actually doing something,
Yep.
and you're being penalised for it. And I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong.
That's it. The harder you work, the more we'll take.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I don't believe in that system.
I don't.
And it sounds like this romantic vision, doesn't it? It's like, just, do you know what? Let people have their money. They're going to live a better life. They're going to be happier. Potentially, they're going to live a healthier life, but they're still going to spend the money in the country. So certain industries are going to profit massively from it. But if you really wanted to go even wider, if we were to have more of our own money, we'd be able to live more healthily. We'd be able to do more activities involving exercise. We'd be able to eat more cleanly, which would then actually reduce pressure on things like the NHS anyway.
Exactly.
But there we go, putting the world to rights. So,
Definitely.
I can't. I've just got such a bee in my bonnet about tax. I was trying to hold that in, Cheryl. Honestly,
I know.
I was like,
I think
don't go on a tax rant, and I've
No.
fucking done it anyway. So there you go.
Fine. I agree with you though, so it's totally fine.
Fantastic. The accountant agrees. I'm going to take that as like, that's an authoritative opinion.
I'm
on
not a
the
normal
subject.
accountant.
Cheryl, your business, so Pink Pig Financials, have they got their own socials?
Yeah, they have social.
Or let people know where to find it?
Yeah, just at Pink Pig Financials. Yeah, I think that's it. YouTube, just search Pink Pig Financials, and again our website as well, where we do post loads of blogs and tax tips and things. So
Okay,
keep an eye on it.
go and check that out.
Yeah.
I will put all your details in the episode description. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you wanted to talk about today?
No, I don't think so. I think
We're all good.
covered it all. Thank
It's
you
been
very
an
much.
absolute pleasure. I really do appreciate you sitting down and opening up on the earlier conversation and then shedding some light on the accountancy side of things. If, like me, you're in the trades and you're putting it off, obviously go and check Cheryl out. Go and check out Pink Pig Financials. If you need any help, give Cheryl a message. We've all got to adapt to the change, so let's get on it. Because again, protect your own mental health, sort it out nice and early and easy. Have something in place for when all the changes come in, and then we can get on with the important stuff, which is earning more money to give to the taxman. But yeah, anyway, before we do finish, a big thank you to the Funky Peach for providing our guest merchandise. Big shout out to Steve from Uncle Matt's Hats for providing those. It's been a pleasure, Cheryl. So again, massive thank you for your time today. It has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation. I'll catch you guys soon on the next one.